I identify as a Christian. If I may be so bold, I identify as a Christian. I do not claim to be perfect, like all Christians do not claim to be perfect. I identify as one. And as such, the topics around Christianity and how the Christian faith is the only faith that people can disparage and it's okay, it's just kind of getting ridiculous. And the decent proportionate number of people who are Christians tend to be minority women. Yes. Yes, you heard that right. Minority women are the vast majority of Christians. So it's kind of funny how in the subset of everything, Christians are the ones who just get, well, shit on, it appears. The reason why I'm so upset about this is because as a Christian, it appears that we are brought up to do everything correctly. We are brought up to do right by the community, uphold the law, don't lie, don't cheat, don't cheat, like don't cheat, don't steal, don't lie, the basics of Christianity. The foundations that America was founded on, those ones, yes. And it tends to be, for the most part, people who raise their children in the Christian faith, they fare better. And again, mother and father, those children fare far better. So the question is, why are Gen Zs not having children? And why are so-called Christian women are having fewer children? And the other question is, why are people who claim to be Christians, specifically black women who claim to be Christians, keep having a bunch of babies out of wedlock? And again, this brought me back to compassion. Yes, in the Bible, we are taught compassion, grace, humility, and all those things. And it appears that today the rhetoric for Christianity is primarily those things. You know, be kind, treat others with respect, and do not fling anything back at someone no matter how much they insult you. Turn the other cheek, be the bigger person. But the Bible also has some pretty cool stories of God doing some pretty crazy things to some bad people. So, my question to you, my fellow Christians, are we done being doormats? Because I think I'm done being a doormat. I can be compassionate and I can be kind to people, but I can also understand and feel that it is unjust for people to steal my time. And what do I mean by people stealing my time? I'm talking about all the money that we spent on foreign countries, all the money that we give to people to just have children on the government's dime. Is it the government's dime or is it my dime, the person who's a productive member of society contributing, and other people just being psychopaths who don't care and taking advantage of our good, kind hearts? I'm tired of it. If time is money, then yes, I'm tired of people taking my time. I really am. I can be Christian, but I think we're forgetting the ruthlessness of God. I think we're forgetting that part. And I try to approach this the kind way. I try to be the sweet girl who, and I am that person. I am. But it appears the only way to really speak to people or get them to listen is to be a little bit spicy. So here I am being spicy. But at the core of it, my long term goal is to put a better image out there of Black people. Oh, yes. So, why am I embarrassed to be Black? Because when people look at me, what they think and the image that comes to mind is my thumbnail. And you know it. And you know it. And I was also talking to this gentleman about fear, about how, me personally, I'm afraid of Muslim people a little bit. But the things I remember seeing in the media and online is just 9/11 and the Holocaust. You learn about it in school and you learn about all the horrible things that, people are doing who claim to be of that faith in the name of, you know, Allah, I suppose. I'm not certain of that faith. But just like we can have bad people, you know, painting a certain picture, and now I'm afraid because of the picture that is painted. Could it not also be true that the picture that is being painted of Black Americans is simply my thumbnail? The baby mama, the going to jail all the time, and the bunch of children, the woman on there online being like, or being on TV being like, well, who's gonna feed my 12 children? Lady, you're supposed to get married and be with a good man before you have those said children. And again, I have compassion for those 12 kids. I'm an adopted kid from a third world country. I have more compassion than you know. But could it also not be said that by helping out and giving for people who are not contributing to society, we are perpetuating a problem, and now Black people's image is in the gutter and everyone is tired of it. Most of all, Black people. So I'm here, and my long term goal is to establish or try to establish a community of people in general doing good things and positive things and focusing on the good things of the world. But it's also to be like, all my Black intellectuals, like all the good Black people out there who are accomplishing something, where are we? I know, I'm on here now, but like, I know you're quietly in the background doing the good work, and I know you're quietly just not even interacting with all of this, but it's like, enough is enough. The image of Black people, the Cardi B's, again, nothing against Cardi B, but when the only image people think of me as is Cardi B, when I try to date and do the right thing, the way that men view me, they just think, oh, you should just take your clothes off. The image that's been perpetuated is because our compassion as Christians, as the American people, has been hijacked. They tell white people, oh, you're this, you're that, you stole this, you stole that, you did that, you did that. And as a person who is Black, I am saying it. I hope white people, A, you do see this, and B, I hope that I can, at least from my point of view, that I can say the guilt tripping, I am sorry, and I hope you stop feeding into it. I hope you stop feeling guilty. Yes, I feel bad for those 12 children. And the thing with Christianity is that yes, we would be able to help such a woman who had, let's say she made a mistake and she had a kid out of wedlock. The Christian faith and the community of Christianity, the point of it is that we help each other, but also people have to contribute to it. Same thing with the government. Like, they're just taking. And who's going to keep paying for all that? Who? Like I say, the Christianity, it's supposed to be like, okay, fine, you made a mistake. We get that. One child, we totally get that. You know, come to church, we'll help you out, we'll try to do the right thing, the food bank and all that. But it's also understood that that person, even if they did make a mistake, they are supposed to also give back to the community. Sitting at home and scrolling online and just, not even raising the children properly and worried about your nails and talking about, all the like, I don't know, gossiping, whatever non-productive thing these people are doing. We've created a monster. And now we need to put this monster down. We do. The compassionate thing to do is put down the monster. Because from what I'm seeing, if we don't put down the monster, it's going to get worse. It really is going to get worse. I I know that right now, President Trump is doing a lot of changes. I claim to be an independent. Okay? I claim to be an independent. I understand from both points of view some negatives and some positives of either parties. But I come from the more logical thing of I I have been in a third world country before. I know what it looks like when a society falls apart, and I am praying and I am hoping and I'm doing everything in my power to do something positive while now that I have a chance living in America. Like, is to give back and do something positive. And The reason why I'm so passionate about this and the reason why I say I'm embarrassed to be black in America is because the American people have so many resources. The books, all the books that I have. Look at, you know what? Look at this book. I went to the library, okay? All the books, everything that you need to put in your mind is available. And yet, the image of black Americans is sexy red. When other people talk to me or try to connect with me and they don't really know me, the first thing that they think of is, oh, do you know Sexy Red? Do you watch Sexy Red? And I'm over it. So, where are my black intellectuals? Where are we at? And I think I also just lost one of the pages I was looking for. I picked up this book from the library because I'm a nerd and I love the library and it's fun. And there's a bit of a passage in here. This book, it is How to Tell a Story and Other Essays. It is Mark Twain, but it is introduced by a man named David Bradley. And then the afterword is by Pascal Cavoci Jr. Later on, I think next week we're going to get into this topic and we are going to like read this book together, or I'm going to do a summation. I'm not entirely certain yet how we're going to go about doing this, but I want to cover this book and the importance of it and why Mark Twain is so important. And I must say that the person who is introducing us to Mark Twain for this book is a black man. And the setting, we're looking around like, you know, I want to say 1950s, 1960s, what this man thought about what black people need to do in order to become a better people, or just a snippet of the whole thing, encompassing of what I'm talking about right now. But overall, it's just disgraceful. It's just disgraceful. And the thing that makes me sad is like in the news, I only hear the horrible things, like a black guy beating up an old Asian woman. Like, why do we even listen to the news? It just like feeds our head with just disdain and hatred, which is why I'm thinking this one world order that people are trying to do is never going to work. It has never worked. It will never work. Our values are too different. Our interests are different. What we wish for in life are different. I, as a Christian, or claim to be a Christian, you know, I do not want my money, my taxpayer dollars going for abortions. I don't. That's not what I believe in. And because my taxpayer dollars goes to Planned Parenthood for kids who were born in a system of perpetuation baby mamas now are getting abortions. And my money is contributing to that, which means my time and I am contributing to that, which is just a disconnect with my value. I am happy to do the right thing and give to the government and, you know, take care of the proper things like the roads and the infrastructure. But as a Christian, my money going to Ukraine, my money going for abortions is just heartbreaking. It really is heartbreaking. And it makes me think, if I don't have control over my life, why would I want to bring a child into this world? Unless, of course, the government was just paying me to be lazy and pump out babies and I'm not responsible for anything, which some people are choosing to do. If that is the case, then everyone who's a hard worker, everyone who's trying to do something positive, if they don't get to reap their rewards, why work harder? Why work harder if the government's going to take 45% of my money? When I can just chillax, barely work, and drive under the radar and make enough money to just be good enough. Why would I work 65 hours a week if I know 30% of my money, 35% of my money is going to the government. And if you say that 35% going to the government is not that bad, I would agree with you. Except that's not just like income tax. And let's say, yeah, you're at the lower level and it's not that much yet, but it's like inflation as well, right? Which is a way of robbing people of their money. Inflation is a thing. So my money is less valuable today than it was back in 1960, for example. Why? Why would I want to work so hard to then give it all away? I might as well just make a little bit of money, stay in the lower tax bracket, and not fret at all. Which then brings the thing of our compassion is going to kill this country. Because you get enough baby mamas, you get enough children being born on the government's dime, and you get enough people like me who are annoyed and disparaged. We just go away. We just try to find other ways to not pay it. When I graduated college, I was, this is story time. I'm just chatting with you, honestly. When I graduated college, I was excited to go in the workforce. I was excited to like begin my whole realm of. By the way, I didn't get a entirely useless degree. I got like a, business accounting degree. Well, accounting degree, which is different than business. But I did try. I did go out in the real world and I truly did try to make it work. And I tried to have a job, a corporate job, and I tried to have a regular job. But you know what happened though? When I went into those jobs, every day, miserable. I woke up for my corporate job. I woke up at 5 a.m. to begin getting ready. And this hair, by the way, takes like a half hour. Love the hair, but it does take that long. Wake up at 5 a.m., get ready, get in my car to drive downtown to sit there on a computer and try to do work about a whole a system that is entirely dysfunctional because the way that they build it is for machines and not people. They want to squeeze the most amount of money out of everyone possible. So, would I have worked harder and stuck it through had I known that my money was going to primarily stay in my bank account? Probably. Probably. But between knowing 30% of my money is going to be gone at least, and then you have to factor the gas money, yeah, to keep that, and then the car itself, which is the maintenance, and we're all broke already, and it's extremely expensive, and then the clothing and the makeup to look good so I can get a promotion. After all that, it's no longer worth it to work. It's more pain than gain. And that, my dear, is why Gen Z is choosing to not have children and to also choose to not be in the workforce. Boomers keep wondering why Gen Z is so lazy. Gen Z is lazy because the system doesn't work for us. Meaning, when you put in your time, you got your money's worth. Now we're putting in the time. We are not going to get our money's worth. So why would we play a game that we know we're going to lose? That's the most, like, that's it. We know we're going to lose the game, so we don't want to play. We're just saying, we don't want to play. No, thank you. And I'd like to be hopeful. And I like to be one of those people who's like, okay, let's look at the positive. I'd like to be one of those people. But more and more, it's becoming difficult to do the right thing. It really is. This passage thing, I want to read it about what this guy was facing in September of 1958 and, racial tensions and how things were going back then. Black guy. I want to, read a little bit of a snippet, and then we are going to see, you know, gain some insight into how things were and where we are at today. In September of 1958, when I was almost 8, verbal retaliation began to fail. Frank exchanges of epithets led to violent attacks with greater frequency. From these, I could not defend myself, for I lacked both the training and the will to fight. I had been taught that physical resistance was morally wrong, so I did what I had been trained to do. I took it in the Lord in prayer. I thought I'd found a surefire formula in the language of Psalm 144, and while winter kept us much indoors, it did seem God had promised to rid me and deliver me from the land of strange children. But that spring on Good Friday, as it happened, God failed to protect me. In protecting myself, I committed the violent act that led to hearsay and the loss of my destiny and my clans. Though I longed for redemption, I clung to the fruit of hearsay, a clear decision to defend myself by any means necessary, even after grandmother's death and my rededication to the faith. I continued to do battle, for the day of meekness seemed a sure road to suicide. But though I fought, I understood I could not win. Violence was wrong, therefore victory was no reason for rejoicing. Indeed, every triumph took me further from salvation and made it less likely I could regain my destiny. Yet it seemed that the only way to preserve my body was to put my soul in peril. In fact, my mind was in greater peril. For though I still did not know many of the connotations of the word nigger, I had come to a full understanding of the phrase poor white trash. At first, I had assumed white trash identified themselves as such by the way they treated me, but eventually I noticed that the children most prone to insult and assault me did tend to be poor. They also tended to come from families which were less educated, less sober, less hard-working, less devout than mine. Though I had thought little about poor white trash while grandmother was alive, after her death, like all her recollected utterances, it assumed biblical proportions. I began to see whites who were poor as both enemies and social and intellectual inferiors. And so, despite my suffering at the hands of bigots, by August of 1960, I was well on the way to becoming a bigot myself. Yeah? How could you not become a bigot if the encounter that you have with said race is primarily negative? And, going on with the poor white trash, that the only people that he ever got attacked by were people who are less educated and poor, and also their parents were drinking and, were not upright citizens and were doing things that, were not of the Christian faith. So, why are we raising animals that are going to attack us in the streets? Why would you do that? A compassion. I have compassion for people. I really do. But this makes me think of what forms compassion can take. A doctor who amputates a leg of a sick patient is doing the right thing. In the moment when he's amputating the leg, he or she is trained to not pay attention to the screams that that person is making because they know that by amputating the appendage, they will be able to save the life of the person. I kind of liken America to that sick patient. And I kind of liken, or I will, connect the two, or you use an example. That sick patient is America. And the, you know, body part we need to amputate are the people, the psychopaths who are taking advantage of us good people who have good hearts. And you can say that, oh, it's okay. It's worth it that these psychopaths are, taking advantage of the system because at the end of the day, we're going to be able to help more people regardless. Okay, that's a good logic. And I could get along with that. But how about when it gets to be too much? Psychopaths breed psychopaths. How many of them eventually we're going to have so many people, or If this problem is not fixed, we're going to have so many people dependent on the government, and there won't be enough income to supply said dependence. And again, ignorance, education, poor. Those are the things that make people who they are. In terms of like the way that they act, like you're less educated, you're not upright citizen, you're drinking, you're partying, you don't care about other people because it's about you and you and you and your pleasure. People say that they feel bad for that mother who has 12 kids talking, who's gonna feed my children? Dude, does anybody feel bad for those kids? Yes, you feel bad for the mother, but what about for the kids? And by giving her money, are you making her, perpetuating her having another 11 children? How about if we had said no after the first kid? Would the other 12 also be born into poverty, lack of Christianity? Would it? And you can say, well, poor countries do it, and they have, well, the difference with America is that there are systems in place and we have education, and we are the greatest country on earth, meaning that everybody has an opportunity to become something. That's all I mean by that. Everyone has an opportunity to become something. We have the literature, we have the schools. In Haiti, there aren't even books to read, okay? I'm not trying to like guilt trip you here. I just am a kid from a third world country who's experienced poverty and doesn't want to see this great country go down. That's my message. That is my aim. That's it. Because you can scream compassion for that mother at 12, but eventually, that multiplication of those bunch of children who are less educated, they're going to breed more children, and then the system's going to be overrun, and the whole Titanic is going to go down at the bottom of the ocean. That is a possibility. Rome fell. Why would America not fall? Are we that arrogant to think that America would not fall? Or do we not care? And if we do not care, is it simply because we do not understand what would truly happen if America were to fall? The chaos that would ensue? The people in the inner cities? You want to talk about chaos? Talk about when America does go down, and those inner city children who are raised by the government basically and fed by the government, they don't have their supply of handout. What happens then? And again, we can play the game if then buts, but my dude, Rome did go down. Okay? Rome did go down. And education, Christianity, the belief in a higher power is necessary for a good environment and is necessary for a great country. That is why America was so great for so long, because we had founding principles based on Christianity. And it appears that we've bred a bunch of children now who do not care for God and don't believe in God at all. And no shame if you don't believe in God. I don't, it's not a major thing, but it does have an impact on our environment and how we interact with each other, and also how we view one another and what we expect of each other. So, am I embarrassed to be black in America? I am super duper embarrassed. So much so that I had to talking online just to put a different image out there that there is an authentic black person who is trying to do the right thing and not just pumping out kids because the government will give her money. And it's going to be slow. I know it's going to take some time, but at least we can begin talking about it. At least we can say white people, they have hijacked your good heart. They've hijacked your good nature, and it's wrong. Just because bad things happen doesn't mean that them trying to, I don't know, do reparations or whatever else work. No, these people are just lazy. They're just lazy. Every race and every group had horrible things happen to them. You don't You think India is going to ask Great Britain for what, reparations? for that country being oppressed for 50 years? Could they? I don't know. Slightly different situation. It's a completely different country. They'd have to go over there and find it. But come on. So I am tired of it. And I'm calling all of my intellectuals, all of my people with a good heart, all of my people who want to do better for this world. I'm calling all of you because if we're the ones who work hard and we're the ones who put in the effort, does the world not belong to the hardworking, good people? Is it not our decision to shape the future? Gen Z, is it now not now our turn? Can we not do it? I think we can. I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. I know it's going to take a lot of work, but I'm choosing to be delusional in the fact that I think we can. Let's continue a little bit more reading about The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, written by Mark Twain, and we are seeing it from the point of view of this black man who's telling us this story. Hmm. Ah, hey. Do you guys like seltzer water? No, I mean, I'm not advertising, but like, it's just, I know some people either like it or they're like, this is disgusting. What are you drinking? Yeah, I don't know. You get used to it. Like beer, you get used to it. It's just, I don't know. it, it's, I like water, but like bubbly water is fun too. I needed, I needed to, um, I needed to drink some water. So, enter to the rescue the author's Ace of Spades, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, which I borrowed from the county library. Much to the relief of the librarian, who found my penchant for nonfiction abnormal. But in fact, I checked the novel out because the author assured me that it wasn't fiction, but rather a recording of adventures that had really occurred, and that the people who appeared in it were real. Tom Sawyer was a combination of three boys, but somebody else named Huck Finn was drawn from life. And indeed, when I read in the opening lines how Aunt Polly pulled her spectacles down and looked over them, and then put them up and looked out under them, I felt a warm surge of recognition and affection, for I had seen grandmother do those things at least 1,000 times. I also liked Sid, the quiet boy with no adventurous, troublesome ways, who attended school regularly and liked it, and always did his chores. He reminded me of me, and I was thoroughly intrigued by the small colored boy, the hard-working Jim, who was the first Negro I had ever seen in a storybook. I did not realize Jim was a slave and had no choice other than to be industrious. I just noted that even when Tom supposedly helped Jim split kindling, Jim did three-fourths of the work, and I liked Jim the more because of it. I did not like Tom. He was a lazy, lying, hooky player, and not so much clever as slick. My dislike crystallized at the end of the first chapter, where Tom picks a fight with a boy who is better dressed and a stranger. Though the insults that led to combat are non racial, I read my experience and myself into the situation. While I did not see the strange boy as black, I did see him as me, assaulted for no reason other than difference. Tom, I decided, had he lived in God's country, would have been among the worst of my tormentors. So disgusted was I with Tom that I almost put the book down at the end of the chapter 1. But I had learned from the hours of Bible reading to pursue with patience and persistence, and so pushed on to chapter 2. Then things grew complicated. Jim made his second appearance, and I saw that he was a slave, and worse, that he had to kowtow to Marse Tom, and worst, that Aunt Polly, who seemed so much like grandmother, owned him. Again, I almost put the book down. Once more I persisted and was rewarded with rich recountings of the familiar rituals of Sunday services, and with a scene of poetic punishment for Tom. Not only broke commandments, but failed to take learning scriptures seriously, and even perverted Sunday school to accomplish selfish ends. At that point, I thought I understood what the story was about: sin and salvation. Obviously, these characters were going to see the error of their ways. Aunt Polly was always crying over a minor wrong done to Tom. She would soon see she was doing a major wrong to Jim, and Tom would neither repent or come to a gruesome end. I read on, at least half hoping for the later resolution. But then another character entered and upset my simplistic morality play. I hated Huck Finn as soon as I saw him, for he seemed to epitomize the poor white trash that was making my life miserable. But then I began to pity him. Unlike Tom, I did not envy Chuck the freedom to sleep on doorsteps in fine weather and in empty hogsheads in wet. I didn't know what a hogshead was, but it sounded like it had something to do with pigs. I knew pigs, and so I saw nothing romantic in Huck's sleeping arrangements or in any other aspect of his poverty, illiteracy, and religious socialism. Indeed, Huck seemed lonely and sad. I fixed on his status as the juvenile pariah of the village, though society was forbidden to other boys whose condition was outcast. Not that I saw him in myself, not that I saw myself in him, but I did know how he must have felt. Sympathy became empathy, and his subconsciousness decision to give Huck a chance. After all, he hadn't done anything bad, and then he did, in one bit of a dialogue concerning the use of spunk water to cure warts. Jeff told Johnny Baker, and Johnny told Jim Hollis, and Jim told Ben Rogers, and Ben told a nigger, and the nigger told me. That did it for Huckleberry Finn, that ignorant regnet white trash Peckerwood. That did it for Tom Sawyer, too, because he replied, "Thou lie. Leastways, all but the nigger. I don't know him, but I never see a nigger that wouldn't lie." In fact, that did it for the book. That book was closed. Had it not been property of for the county library, that book would have suffered serious damage. No! He's like, that book would have suffered serious damage. I get that. I get that. But that was so easily put out of sight was not but what was so easily put out of sight was not so easily put out of mind. For when my furry trade from when my fury faded, it came to me that what had went on in the book was actually quite similar to what happened in God's country. The author, this Mark Twain, was like the white people who were not bigots. He called Negroes Negroes or colored, which was acceptable. He did use the word nigger, but only to report that the people in the book said. People he'd grown up with, schoolmates of mine he'd written. In that sense, I use nigger too. How else could I describe what the little bigots called me? Yeah, the N word, as I like to say. To give you a background of me, why I say the N word is because I am a black kid adopted from a third world country by parents who are white. And I was raised the proper way to not say bad words, especially the N word. And I never have uttered that word really, except bad influences and making friends who were not the best. But even then, it was in jovial, comical ways and only in strict circles in specific situations. I digress. Let's go back. The N word. I say it in literature because it must be said in literature because, as the author puts it, as the person who's introducing the book to us, as he puts it, how else am I to describe it? What the boy called me. And the same thing with these books. How else am I to describe the N word? Like I can't. I can't just say the N word. That's just I can't alter the book. I can't alter what the author is saying. But this all is brilliant. The writing with Huck Finn and what it captures is real life. And what this black boy was reading was real life. Except it was so painful for him that he had to put it down, but the thoughts remained in his mind. Which makes me think how much ideas impact our mind. What we feed our heads, how much does it impact our mind? TikTok and the TikTok brain, how much does it impact our minds? And I'm impacted by this too. I doom scroll and I do all the bad things I'm not supposed to do. We're all guilty of it. None of us are perfect. But, it's scary. It really is. It can be scary. But him describing what's happening with Huck Finn and him describing like he wasn't really into it and, you know, he didn't really know what that bad word meant, like, because he never really had come across it. And I'm kind of like the same way. Some bad words I don't know to be offended by because I have never come across it. So, mm, I'm so gullible. I think I worked at a restaurant for a period of time, and this one girl was like, "Ah, Shalinda, you're looking so thick," and I'm like, "Ah, thank you." I didn't know that she was low key trying to call me fat. I had no clue. And I was just like, "Thank you," and it's like when someone is so like gullible and, and so like not aware of the world's weird ways, how could you possibly insult someone when they're like, if anything, you feel silly for saying something insulting when someone's like, thank you. They went so over their head that the satisfaction of insulting them doesn't even it doesn't even register. Mm. Oh my goodness. But Huck Finn, yeah. Then I realized something more complicated. Both Huck Finn and Tom used the word, but with a crucial difference. When Huck said nigger, he met somebody who was a Negro, but as truthful as a person who was white. Tom rejected the Negro's knowledge, and not because he'd known his Negro to lie. Tom knew nothing about the Negro, not even his name. When Tom said nigger, he meant somebody who was a liar because he was a Negro, and for no other reason. Tom Sawyer was a bigot. But Huck accepted the knowledge of this Negro, this nigger. He set the nigger equal with the white boys, and apparently thought nothing of it. Once again, I found myself sympathizing with Huck, making excuses for him. Tom was supposedly a respectable boy with the advantages of education and religion. For him, to use the N word. See? See? I'm For him to use the word nigger was obviously wrong, but Huck was ignorant, innocent of both public and Sunday school. Perhaps he knew no better than to say nigger. I found myself actually liking him, and when I went back to the book, it was not to follow the adventures of Tom Sawyer, but to discover the fate of Huckleberry Finn. I was overjoyed that in the end he was rescued from poverty, homelessness, illiteracy, and apostasy, that he slept on clean sheets, went to school, was taught the Bible, that he had a future on earth and a chance at heaven, since I knew from the author's cards that there was a book by the name of Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. That was the next thing I borrowed from the library. Knowledge. Knowledge is power. And sitting there and trying to become knowledgeable and reading books, it's difficult. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, English is my second language. I came to this country when I was 12, and I'm now 27. When I tell you, I have spent my entire years in America learning. Yep, I came to America, was put in school, began learning, got done with high school, went to college. Alrighty, good. began learning at college. Got out of college, went to work, began learning. Left work, started YouTube, began learning. The amount of learning for YouTube, oh my goodness, it's crazy. But let me tell you, everyone does say it, and everyone who is successful does say it. Invest in yourself. Knowledge is power. Getting out of anything, getting out of poverty, especially, knowledge is power. But there's a difference between poverty and country living. For me, when I hear poverty, I think inner city, stuck, like I say, in the government, on the government's dime, and doing barely anything. And just stuck in a horrible, horrible situation where atrocities are occurring regularly. I've heard that apparently a 9-year-old boy, the horrible things that happen. And I'm not, yeah, I have compassion. Like, the reason why I'm so upset about it or so passionate about this is because children dying in the intercity is not something that can be, just solved by removing things in terms of like, the weapons per se. It's solved by creating a better society. And a better society can only be created when people are upheld to moral actions. When people are accountability, accountability, accountability. When people are held accountable for their actions, that's when we get a good society. Because this morning, I'm telling you, again, I could go out right now and just get pregnant by the first man I see, and the government will just begin paying me, and I can get a house in the inner city. But is that a better life for my child? No, it's not. Is that a better life I could provide for my child in the government? I don't think so. I think I'm smarter and more capable than my child accidentally being shot in the inner city. And if you think it is compassion for a 9-year old to be like, you don't think that. You had good intentions. But the roads to hell are paved with good intentions, are they not? We want to help. We want to give money so this black woman doesn't have to go to work. But in the end, the children that are born into that life, illiterate, illiterate, poor, less educated, not resilient, seeking pleasure. Like, work is important because not only does it give a person a sense of meaning, but it also gives a person a sense of dignity, a sense of accomplishment. And when you have to wake up the next day to put something into the world that is positive or build something, let me tell you, you do not have the energy to go out there be doing negative things. And I am pleading that we stop being compassionate because compassion is actually breeding the very problem that we have today, the very problem with black people and the image that we have today. We could be so much more. I know there are black people who are not going to, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the black people who are also embarrassed, like me, who are done and over this. I'm talking to those people. What can we do? How can we build a community that showcases the positive things that I know that black people are capable of, but not really been given the opportunity or have not been held accountable to become a better version of themselves? Oh, it's not her fault. She just had 12 babies. Oh, it's not her fault. We just have birth control. Oh, it's not her fault. It's not as if we have an infrastructure in education. If she was in Haiti, I would be like, okay, cool. There's no literature, there's nothing, there's no infrastructure. If she was in a third world country, I get it. But in America, with an iPhone, everyone has an iPhone. It's willful ignorance. And for me to work to give my money to people who sit on their bottoms and legit just scroll and doom scroll is a crime. It's an atrocity. It's barbaric. Why? They're able bodied. Why? Compassion? How about you feel compassion for me? Or us people who wake up and we do the hard work every day. The men who go out there and do the hard work every day. That's the other thing. The people primarily paying for this are men because they're the ones who make a lot of money and their taxes go to pay for these women who claim that they don't need a man and they can do anything better than a man and I just need my child. I don't even need a man to get a child anymore. Bro, without those taxes for your children, which are coming from men, you would not be living your life of opening your legs and pumping out children every 5 years just so you can elongate the process of how much. See, see, I'm worked up. I'm worked. I just need to. I just need to. I'm passionate. I'm passionate about all of this. But So, my black good people, my black intellectuals, it's our time. I think it's our time now. Yeah, I think it is our time. Let's show them what we're capable of. Let's show them what we can do. This is a perfect way to stop. So I will say au revoir, à demain.